So now what we're going to do is configure our boot image and our server so we can capture the image from our Windows Server workstation. And if you take a look under Install Images, we see our Install Group 1. This is our install image, which is all of the configuration for Windows 7 Enterprise to be installed on a blank computer from scratch. And if you take a look at our boot image, here's our boot image, and it's for a 64-bit architecture. So we can actually boot the system and choose some options to do what we need to do to install Windows. So the computer will boot off the boot image and then start the install process, which is coming from our install image. Okay, so we're going to select our server and take a look at some of the properties which have already been set from the wizard that we ran. So we're going to right click and select properties on our server and take a look at some of these options here that we have. Pixie response, this is the one where we actually said respond to all known computers, right? Okay, so that one is checked already. And this is how quick the server will respond to clients, how many seconds it's going to delay. I like to give that a 2-second delay so we can actually make some modifications if we need to or quickly interrupt the boot process. Next, under boot, it says here that the server will allow clients to boot to it, but then it's going to require you to push F12 in order to continue. And that's all great if you're sitting right there in front of the computer and you can quickly press F12, but for our virtual world and our testing environment here, we're going to set that to always continue to Pixie boot for now. So set it for both known and unknown clients to always continue the Pixie boot. We can change this back as soon as we're done imaging this process, but that F12 option is nice to have set. Okay, and then the default boot image, we only have one boot image, so it will use that one. But if we wanted to, we could browse and select the boot image there. And we're going to be coming back to that here in a second. Okay, next we go to client. And this is where we can tell it not to join the domain after it's done imaging and to enable unattended install. And we'll be taking a look at the unattend file here in a second. We'll be playing around with that. Network, these are UDP port ranges that it uses. Under advanced, we have allow the Windows deployment service to dynamically discover domain servers. And since we only have one in this example, we don't need to specify a specific domain controller that it's going to use. And we're not going to use DHCP authorization as well. When you deploy workstations and send all those files over the network, it uses a multicast address. And this is the address that it's going to use by default, and you can change that if you want to. In case you have other multicast traffic on your network, you needed to change it. It's under the multicast. And DHCP, these are the options that we had set during the wizard. Okay, so the only thing I changed in here as a quick review is underneath the Pixie response tab. I added a 2-second delay, and then under the boot option, I said always continue with the Pixie boot. And we're going to be coming back to this option. I kind of skipped over it, the Active Directory Domain Services. This is where we can change the format of the name. So when we image our computers, it's going to use right now the username of the administrator account, because that's where we're going to log in as on our boot image when we go to image our Windows workstation, and we don't want to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to, if we want to look at what we can put in there, we click on how to specify this format, and here you can see they give an example of how we can name it. So if you want just the first name or the first 5 characters, you put %5 first, %5 last, and it'll just take the last 5, or %5 username, it'll just take the first 5 letters of the username. When you use the MAC address, you can use %MAC, or the computer name includes an incremental number containing n digits. So we're going to use this option right here. This is nice. So we're going to use a 3-digit format starting with 001 through 99. So I'm going to use this format right here. I'm going to copy that, and we're going to change this to read workstation, and then we're going to paste in the %3, so it will be workstation 001 would be the very first workstation that we're going to be using. And it will add these workstations, it'll join them to the domain in the same domain as the WDS server, and we can choose a specific location within the domain. So if we had a new folder called, or a new organizational unit in our Active Directory called workstations, then we could add it to that. But instead, it'll just go to the default computers OU. Does that make sense? Just to double check, I'll just give you a quick browse here. So by default, it's going to go into the computers OU. And we can change that into a different OU if we want to. So it's going to go to our advancednet.net domain in the computers OU. That's the same as if we just chose this option right here. So either one of these would work. I'll leave it here just so you can physically see what OU it'll be put in. Hit OK. And now we're going to be taking a look at our boot images, and we're going to create a new image. And we're going to do that by right-clicking on our boot image. So go down to boot images, and we're going to right-click on this boot image, and we get an option to create a capture image. What this will do is it'll create an image to capture the files off the hard drive. Because right now, the normal boot image that we have there is just to boot up to Windows install options. So we want to choose, we're going to create a capture image. So it'll capture an already configured Windows computer. And this is where we give it an image name. So we're going to go capture Windows 7 master. Okay, and then we're going to put this in the remote install boot images. So we're going to browse, and it should be on our computer, the C drive, remote install, and we're going to put this actually under boot. And we're going to call this our Win 7 capture. Hit open. So it's going to create this boot image and store it here on our C drive and call it Win 7 capture. And then hit next. And that will let this finish up. And I'll do another recording with the next step.